What is going on, people? Welcome back into the channel. It is Monday. Happy Monday. Happy first day of the week. We are coming off a strong weekend, as usual, of the EFL Championship. And today, I've got some concerns that I want to voice about my team, Coventry City. Now, there's been a lot of good this season, but there's also been some bad that are starting to peek through the cracks. And as we have not lost a game this season yet, I want to say take this all with a grain of salt, but I'm holding them to a higher standard because they've shown what they're capable of. And their highs are high. We haven't seen the lows yet. And before we get to those lows that are inevitable, I just want to talk about a couple things in my mind before we get into that. If you are new to the channel, maybe if you're coming from my TikTok live stream, which we had a great time doing, I am Jonah Fatcat, make EFL Championship content and general footy content as well. So if you're new to the channel, please sub, please like the video, and let me know down below what you agree and you disagree with in this video. I like to respond to every single comment. Unless you say I look like Berbatov, then auto ban. Today's the first day of fall, so it's getting a little bit more spooky in my setup. As you can see, some things in the background have changed if you are a recurring viewer, but that is not what we're here for. Let's talk about the season so far. We are sitting in 6th place. We are sitting right at the edge of the playoffs. We're tied with a couple other teams that have had very, very different seasons than us. So obviously, there are 2 teams left in the in the championship that have not lost a game. Middlesbrough sitting up at the top with 16 points, and then there's us sitting at 6th place with 10 points. Tied with West Brom, Birmingham City, and QPR, who we smashed 7-1, and they are victory lapping. Very odd start to the season. No losses other than the EFL Cup. 4 draws, including 3 in a row. 2 after international break. Now, I do just want to show the table at this point the past 2 seasons, just to calm the nerves a little bit. So this isn't exactly the best graphic, but we can see 6th place where Birmingham City. This is 2 years ago. Where's Coventry? They're all the way down here. 13th place. They had played 6 games. They won 1, they lost 1, and they drew 4. So very similar results-wise 2 years ago, but down at 7 points, sitting just below the middle of the table. And then last season, we know, was also a bit of a tough start. 19th place after 6 matches. 1 win, 2 draws, 3 losses, -2 goal differential. So things can obviously change, as we know. One of these seasons, they ended up back in the playoffs. The other season, they did finish in the top half of the table, but they did not make the playoffs. Now, that should calm your nerves a little bit. Obviously, they are infamous for having slow starts, but this is not the case this year. They have shown some flashes of absolute brilliance, and in a year where any team, it seems like at the time being right now, can go up, we need to capitalize on the weaker championship where, you know, some of the parachute teams haven't gotten up to speed yet, and before they do, we need to go out there and we need to get results. When you're the better team on the day, you need to go out there and you need to get all 3 points. Leicester City, listen, a point is a good result there. They're a parachute payment team at the end of the day. They're above us in the table. They have Premier League quality players. We saw it with Fatawu. I'm very happy with that result. I cannot complain, but I do want to look back at the other games where we didn't pick up all 3 points. So Norwich City, we know we definitely deserve to get all 3 there. Oxford was very unlucky. Second half was probably the worst half of football we played the entire season. And then what feels like a lifetime ago, the 0-0 draw against Hull City, whose defense hasn't exactly been as strong as it was on the day throughout this season so far. Now listen, being undefeated is great. It's great to see 0 losses. You know, you feel satisfied with most of the results. But I think we can all agree that at least 2 of those 4 draws, we feel like we should have gotten all 3 points, more specifically the Oxford United and the Norwich City. And guys, things aren't always going to be good. We have a really tough run of fixtures coming up, including a couple 3-match weeks. The first one literally being the next run of games. And this is the worst time for that, as we have one of our attacking players injured. And now this comes into my main concern that I want to talk about today. It's no question that we were all concerned about the squad depth. When deadline day happened, you know, we loaned out Justin Obikwu. We loaned out Raphael down to League One, which, by the way, Obikwu had a 10-minute cameo, goal, and assist for Lincoln City. So shout out to him. Now, guys, let's look at the team. We know what happened. Efron Mason-Clark was a surprise scratch from the squad. Picked up a hammy injury at Norwich City. Still waiting on further updates. Frank is hoping that he can get back to training this week and maybe play against Birmingham City. In my opinion, I would err on the side of safety, especially as we know with hamstring injuries and just the player himself. He is prone to injuries, and hamstrings are very, very easy to retweak and re-injure. And if you tear a hamstring, God forbid, whether it's grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3, you're looking at least a couple months out off of the pitch. And I think we can agree right now that is the least favorable thing that we would want in a team that is already very thin. And I think we all saw our worst nightmares come to fruition. You know, you can say a squad is thin, but you really don't feel the impact of it until you actually see it in a real match where, you know, we really did need that depth to try to push us over the edge in the Leicester City derby. This is the team right here, right? So you would expect EMC to slot in here, and then you've got Brandon Thomas Asante on the bench. Now, when you bring Brandon Thomas Asante in, if I could spell, this is your best 11. It's one of the best 11s in the championship, there's no question. It's at least top 5, maybe even top 3. Now, what happens if you go down a goal? What do you do in the scenario where you go down a goal and you need to bring on an impact sub? The only option you have is to take off Haji Wright and bring on Ellis Sims. You've got no wingers to bring on. You've got no wingers to bring on that can impact the game if Efron Mason-Clark is out. Yes, if Efron Mason-Clark is out, then you can bring in Brandon Thomas Asante on either side. But after Sims, there's no one to bring on. Let's look at the bench from the last game. I'll have to zoom in on the edit, but look, let's read through it together. Wilson, Allens, Sim, Bidwell, Wolfenden, Eccles, Brow, Perry, Andrews. And I know what you're probably thinking. We had Brow on the bench. However, my rebuttal to that is that Frank has shown that he doesn't have the trust in Brow yet to bring him in a big game. The only time that Brow was brought on was against Norwich City when they wanted to throw the kitchen sink. So in that scenario, he's comfortable. However, he was not comfortable bringing Brow in this game after Brandon Thomas Asante was exhausted after, you know, being up and down the pitch, helping out Jada Silva, taking care of Fatabu as best as he could. So it really did not leave us many options in the attacking front, which then had to lead to the 2 substitutions that were made. Let's take a look at those. In the 75th minute, we brought on Jamie Allen and Josh Eccles to bolster up the midfield and play, as Arsenal would call it, haram ball, or how Man City played this past weekend against them at the Emirates. Just lock up shop, just make sure that you can go ahead and you can take up that point. And all the stats reflect it, you know, 58 possession. It was actually up to 60 at one point. Very defensive game, both teams just being very, very safe, but Cov were the ones to wave the white flag at the beginning, which is gamesmanship. I totally understand, but I honestly feel like we didn't have the option to go for the win. And at the end of the day, I understand that that was the smart thing to do. Of course it was. You know, you're at your rival in a derby match. You want to make sure that after you went 75 minutes of playing very, very good defense and doing what you can on the attack, you make sure you just lock up shop and you take the points home. It's smart. I totally agree with it. But the issue that I have is that there was no option to do the opposite of what you did. So there was no one that we could have brought in off the bench that could have had an impact. So Brandon Thomas Asante, this entire season in the games he hasn't started when he was in for the injured Sakamoto, he was the guy to, you know, breathe a change of pace, come on, inject pace, inject chaoticness into the game. So it's just a little scary to me that, you know, we don't really have that, because you're not always going to go up and score first in every match. And we are going into a pivotal match this weekend. And if Efron Mason-Clark is not back, we are in another scenario like this where we're pinned up against the wall unless we go and we score first. Do I expect us to score first this weekend? I would hope so. Maybe the goals have slowed down a little bit, but, you know, things are still looking good. Things are still clicking. I just am a bit concerned about the thinness of the squad. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but I saw it when I was watching. Maybe I had a different camera angle, but I saw Haji Wright and I saw Jack Radoni both looking a bit unwell. Radoni grabbing at the shoulder. We know that he has that recurring shoulder injury after popping it out. I think it was last season, don't quote me on that, maybe 2 seasons ago, but he's been managing it well. And then Haji Wright a couple times throughout the game. Early in the game, it looked like he got his heel stepped on, which he was able to recover from, but after that header in like the 70th minute, where he was free and he didn't get much power on it, he was slow to get up, and then he got subbed out about 10 minutes later. So just a little bit of concern there. I'm looking forward to hearing updates from Frank. He did come out and say that he's hoping to get EMC back in the training squad this week. And then also another one to mention is Kane Kessler-Hayden. He had all the off-the-field stuff, but he did just genuinely have an ankle injury. So you can see it right here with my mouse. So he did have that ankle injury. He was training on grass this past week. This was before the Leicester City game. He's hoping to get him back on the bench for Birmingham. And as we're going into a 3-match game week, his services are going to be needed. Yes, we all love Milan Van Ewijk. He's been off to a great start this season. He's very impactful. He's up and down the pitch the entire game. But do we truly expect him to play 270 minutes in a span of 7 days? I don't think so. I don't think that's fair on him. He does have the international break coming right after, but I would hope that Kane can get on the bench and maybe make a couple cameos. Even if he starts a game, I would be okay with that. I'd like to see what he's got. You know, he's kind of been unlucky to start the season, picking up like silly little injuries, like a rolled ankle. He banged heads with someone earlier in the season. So hopefully we can get him back on the pitch soon. So I don't know, man. I just feel a little bit concerned in the sense of the team is obviously in a great spot. they could be in a better spot. We would all like them to probably have about 4 more points than they do, just based off of how they've been playing. I'm just scared about the squad depth going into a really, really tough set of fixtures. However, on the flip side, I do want to mention that, the midfield is relatively well sorted. Frank doesn't seem to have much trust in Kai Andrews yet, but Kai Andrews could come in for either of these two boys. And then when you're ready to lock up shop, which hopefully happens a lot this season, you've got Eccles, who just returned, which is great. You have Jamie Allen, who's had a sneaky amount of appearances this season. So in the midfield, we're relatively well sorted. You just hope that Radoni's shoulder can hold up. And then on the defensive side, Kitching and Thomas have Wolfenden behind them, who we know is putting good pressure on them because these two guys looked great last game. We already talked about Kessler Hayden behind Milan Van Ewijk. And then Jay Da Silva actually has 2 backups, so he's got Brow and he's got Bidwell. Clearly right now, Frank values Bidwell as the direct replacement for him, but I think Brow will slowly start to make his way into the team. I'm hoping we could get a couple games where we go up a goal or two, and then we can actually see some of these fringe players that have had a tough time getting minutes get their chances. So like maybe we go up 2 goals in a game. Say we go up 2 goals against Millwall. I'd like to see Brow get 20 to 30 minutes, or even give him a chance at the left back, because at the end of the day, he's a left back by trade. And we know what Bidwell can do. He's going to give you a service. No issues with Rushworth in the keeper position. We know we have Dovin coming back next year. That'll be a fun position battle to watch. So yeah, just voicing the concerns, but also I don't want to be completely negative, so I do just want to point out what we did in the last 2 January windows. You always got the option to recall Bipu or Raphael. I don't know if that'll really happen necessarily, but the last 2 winter transfer windows have been very, very good for Coventry. Let me show you why. Last January, Matt Grimes was brought in from Swansea. The shock move. Look what he's done for us now. He's literally our captain and our most consistent player. Also, don't forget about 2 years ago. Do not forget who else was brought in. Another midfielder. If you know ball. Look at that. Victor Torp, January 2024. That was when he came into Coven. He already has 70 appearances, or 69. Ha! So possibly look for us to do some business in January. But obviously, 1 game at a time. We got to get there first. Maybe even a loan recall. Who knows, man? But I just want to hear what you guys think. I just want to get my thoughts out there. It's a little bit scary. I know we're going to be okay, but I just get a little bit nervous considering, one of those big dogs go down. We're in for a world of hurting because people are going to have to plug positions that maybe they haven't played before, and then it just leaves us even more thin. Just would like to have a little bit more impact off the bench. It feels like Raphael would have been a good one to have on the bench. Looked like he could play left or right wing. And at the time, I will be completely honest, I did say I understand the move. I think it's a long-term move. I don't think he necessarily would have had a huge impact on the team this year, but, to be fair, probably could have put in a good 15-20 minute cameo against Leicester City, and we'll see if his services would have been needed for the rest of the season, at least until January when they have to make the decision to recall him or not. But overall, I'm still happy with everything. I'm not coming out here and saying we're in full-on crisis mode. It's just that, if 1 or 2 more things go the wrong way, it then starts to get a little dicey, and we may find ourselves limping into the January transfer window. So again, not terrible stuff, but just have a high standard for the club, as they've shown 12 goals in 2 matches, 15 the entire season. So they've showed the highs of the highs, and before the lows of the lows come, I want to make sure that we're covered in those positions. So that's my thoughts for today. Probably a little bit controversial, but if you made it to the end, thank you. Please let me know if you agree or you disagree down below, and peace.